Premier League is just around the corner and new players and promoted teams are ready to take on the top flight for the first time. In American sports, Rookie of the Year is given to the player who's performed the best in their first year in the league, so here's my twist on it. The criteria is simple, only players who've never played in the Premier League are available, so here's 5 players to keep an eye on in their first Premier League season. It's very rare that I hear of a transfer between Premier League clubs for a player that I genuinely hadn't heard of, but that is the interesting case of Yakuba Minta, and perhaps a knock against my own ball knowledge. Minta's just signed for 30 mil from Newcastle, having never made an appearance. He spent last season tearing up left backs in the Eredivisie with Feyenoord, registering 10 goals and 5 assists. The Gambian native has a key eye for goal, matching his XG of 9.8 from last season, which hopefully he can keep up as Brighton's forwards have historically struggled in front of goal. Once again, Brighton should be a very fun team to watch if all of their attacking talents can stay fit. He was the first signing of the Hutzler era, which makes me wonder, was he the former Sampaoli manager's main target? He's very direct and likes to take on defenders and drive towards the box rather than hitting the byline, which you can see from his take-on numbers. Minta feels very similar to what they wanted out of the Ansu Fati loan deal last season, but Fati of course with a risk given his injury history. Minta though has already scored a few times in pre-season, so hopefully we'll see him cutting in on that iconic left foot very soon. Another winger makes my list, and it's no other than Ipswich starlet Amari Hutchinson. Hutchinson has actually played one Premier League game, but given that it was so forgettable, I'm gonna make an exception here. I always think that when a team gets promoted, it's really important that you sign the loan players that brought you up, and that's what Ipswich have done to the surprise of the public. Hutchinson drew interest from Europe, with Stuttgart and Ajax circling at the end of last season, but after voicing his desire to stay with the Tractor Boys, Ipswich forked out the £25 million asking price to get him to stay at Portman Road. Hutchinson is a player I would describe as extremely dynamic, very good change of direction, can finish on both feet and is very comfortable driving with the ball. He's really critical to how Ipswich play, since he's such a threat. When he makes a run towards the centre of the pitch, it leaves a lot of room for fullback Leif Davis to bomb on, whose crosses make up a large chunk of Ipswich goals. All around, just a really good bit of business. Next, there's Irish international Jake O'Brien, who just signed for Everton for a fee in the region of £18 million from Lyon. Having only spent a season in France, I think it would have been good for O'Brien to wait another year before jumping to the Prem, given that Lyon are playing Europa League football and that he had firmly established himself as a starter in the second half of the season. But the allure of the Premier League is hard to turn down, especially for Irish players. That said, manager Sean Dyche's track record with developing centre halves over the years is very good. O'Brien might have to bide his time in the first half of the season, but with Tarkowski being the wrong side of 30 and Jared Branthwaite destined for a Big Six move, he will eventually be a pivotal part of that Everton defence. He stands at 6'6", a classic Dyche centre half, quick, an aerial threat in both boxes. He needs more refinement, having only played one full professional season in a top 5 league, but that'll come with time. He just needs the minutes. The physical tools are there, and he's certainly one to watch out for this year. I was very optimistic with Nottingham Forest last year, despite the dreaded second-year syndrome potentially rearing its ugly head. Between Ibrahim Sangare, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Andrew Amabama-Dele and Ola Anya, I thought they had made some really smart signings, but unfortunately things didn't really pan out for them, and it felt largely down to the defence. 67 goals conceded and a league-high 23 from set pieces. Reinforcements were needed, and I think 6'6" centre-half Nikola Milenkovic may just fit the bill. Milenkovic impressed with Serbia at the Euros this summer and will now be partnering Murillo at the heart of the Forest defence after completing his £12 million move from Fiorentina. I think he is an instant starter for Nuno's men alongside Murillo, who likes to get on the ball a lot, so it'll be interesting to see if playing with Milenkovic gives him that freedom to get forward more. But even if it doesn't, Milenkovic's aerial presence should at least cut down on the amount of set-piece goals conceded this season. And for my final player, despite now having 9 goalkeepers on the books, I'm going to go with Chelsea goalkeeper Philip Jorgensen, who signed for £20 million last month. Despite Petrovic's solid performances in the second half of last season, you would assume that Jorgensen has been brought in to be the starter, at least at some point. New manager Enzo Maresca wants a goalkeeper that can play out from the back, something which Petrovic has struggled with at times. One thing I would be wary of with Jorgensen is that Villarreal allow the most shots on target last season in La Liga. Sometimes transitioning from a team that concedes a high volume of shots to a much lower one can actually be a struggle with keepers, as they can go through long stretches of the game without facing a shot and then are forced to lock in an instant. It can be tough to maintain your concentration when nothing is happening for so long. Jorgensen though is extremely young for a goalkeeper, so despite his great season last year, expectations should be tempered a bit. I think he will eventually win that number 1 shirt at Chelsea, but they do have a habit of flipping between goalkeepers, so for all we know he could be sold in a year's time for peanuts. Only time will tell. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and leave a suggestion for one that you'd like to see next. Until then, I'll see you in a bit.